to see in the coming hours in terms of responses from those party elders, in terms of the boost in fundraising that Bakari was just talking about, and what the campaign trail is going to be looking like in those next few weeks heading up to the DNC.
I mean, to be frank, we have no idea. The DNC is going to be held 1 month from today. Democrats will be gathering in Chicago, and it's an open question. We've seen Politico reporting Friday night that House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, has endorsed this idea privately of an open convention, should that be the case. Now, we don't know if that's actually what we'll see. This is notable when it comes to donors, though, because we had been hearing a lot of reporting from donors who were telling the Biden campaign that they were not going to be offering more money or helping fundraise more money for the Biden campaign until this very situation was figured out, whether or not President Biden was ultimately going to drop out of the race and who would replace him in that situation. And so now that this has happened, I think that it's a big question for donors. I think it's going to be a big question now that Biden has endorsed Harris as the nominee, if that actually happens, who she would pick to be on the ticket with her. I mean, we just finished the vice presidency nomination race with Donald Trump, and now it is an open question of, if it is Harris on the ticket, who she selects to be her vice president and what that would look like. That was also a factor in Donald Trump's selection of his VP. He was kind of watching that closely to see what was going to happen with the Democratic ticket. They wanted to have a good idea of who they would be up against. And now that has completely changed, even though J.D. Vance is now formally his running mate. And so, I mean, this is just a huge mountain of uncertainty for everyone, I think, a question of what this looks like going forward. And if the party does line up behind what President Biden did today by endorsing Harris as the nominee going forward. Clearly, I mean, I think a lot of people didn't believe there was any other option for that because he picked her to be his vice president. So it would be incredibly unusual if he didn't select her to endorse her as the next nominee after he got out of the race. But obviously, you know, this is uncharted territory for anyone, much less the White House. And so it is a major question of what these next few weeks looks like. But it's safe to say this race has completely altered itself since that CNN debate in Atlanta a little over 3 weeks ago. The entire game has changed, Alex.
Yeah, it certainly was the assumption that if he were to step out, he were to drop out of this race, that he would hand things over to Kamala Harris. But it is not, as we've just been discussing, a foregone conclusion that she is necessarily the nominee. That is one of the biggest questions, if not the biggest, right now. I want to get back to Priscilla Alvarez, who is traveling with the president. Priscilla, what more are you learning from the White House just moments after the president made this historic announcement?
Well, we're learning a little bit more about what happened in the minutes before the president put out this letter. Sources telling our colleague MJ Lee that the president informed senior campaign